Ahoy! Today we're talking about patch 7.11 again. We're not talking about all this stuff because we've already talked about that. Also, by the way, notice my best game in the world shirt. Bot smashers. We're talking about this stuff. Post PTS balance changes and bug fixes. There are a few little big changes that are coming to Smite that have been announced. And the first one is the weirdest one, but also the most important one here. Shield of Thorns and upgrade. This relic can no longer be activated while under the effect of crowd control. There was originally another description here. There was originally something about while channeling abilities, blah, 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 but actually that was a mistake. It'll interact with everything else as before. So for example, while you're in Warman ult, you can still use it, but during the animation of going into the ult, you cannot. So while you're activating an ability, you can't use Thorns, but then depending on what ability it is, you can use it during the ability. But CC will prevent you from using it now, rather. And I don't know about this. This is such a strange change based on the fact that Thorns wasn't really changed in this patch. So why is this like a post-PTS balance thing? Like, I don't think anyone even played PTS, to be honest, or not many people at least. And B, why Thorns again? So the overarching point with Thorns is it's one of the few items that is still left in the game to counter hunters. Well, depending on who you're playing, you have more options. So for example, if you're playing a tank, then Nemean is obviously a good choice. But everything else is kind of, Spectral, Midgardian. You can use that in specific contexts to counter specific guards to some degree, but there are not many hard counters. And the hard counter that is left for both ADCs as well as AA-heavy assassins, I would say, primarily, is Shield of Thorns. And I don't see why there's a reason to nerf that again, when there's been plenty that's been done in the direction of nerfing, well, anything that counters those type of basic attack-focused characters in the first place. And another benefit of Thorns here was also that it's not physical defense or something, so if you're against a Freya, it'll still work the same way. I think Thorns is already conditional in itself, because Thorns requires you to be tanky enough to really utilize the effect of it in itself. So it's not something you will typically find on a jungler, for example, unless they're going very tanky. So it's typically something that is almost exclusively reserved for solo laners in Conquest, because most supports don't even have room to build it. Exceptions exist, of course. And now it's getting nerfed. I think the nerf in itself isn't particularly drastic, because the characters that will primarily be spamming basic attacks at you are the ones that don't really have that much CC that they can easily or without risk apply to you. Like most ADCs will not have that much CC to stop you from using it in the first place, or you just use it right after and it will still have enough an effect. And among the assassins, there's Kali, who can stun you and then kind of prevent you from using it for a bit, I guess. But it's not really the major deal of the item. It just feels like a very out of nowhere nerf, and I really don't know where it's coming from. And once again, I've said this many times. I feel like there's somebody in the HiRez department that loves hunters a little bit too much, and doesn't want any counter mechanics for them to exist. I know there are some people who also want Thorns removed from the game entirely. I think that's incredibly stupid. I think that, just removing a counter mechanics outright and punishing people for using items right is why? Like, if anything, I would say, like, talk about the duration of the item maybe, and then adjust the reflect value accordingly. Like, maybe make it shorter, but make it reflect more. So you cannot attack that target for that time frame, but at the same time, if you do attack, then you get punished more. That's something you can discuss. I still don't understand the upsetness about this item, because most players that are heavily countered by this are the same ones that always have the option to go into lifesteal and directly counter the effect of Thorns in itself. That's all I'm saying. But outside of that, there's more. There's some bug fixes to healing specifically. This is because anti-heal now works a little bit differently. So basically all items that have anything that counters healing at all now have a description that is increase or reduce healing by X%. And that includes HP 5, healing from yourself, healing from others, lifesteal, everything. And then there are some items or passives that don't work that way, that have some exceptions, and then it will be specifically noted instead of the other way around. So for example, Cerberus passive does not steal HP 5, but it still reduces HP 5, so that will be stated in there. Or Cursed Ankh, the debuff of the item itself only applies to enemy guys that are healed by abilities, even though the healing reduction applies to all effects. So the effect is not applied if you just have HP 5, which makes perfect sense. So it's good that these updates are kept in mind, are put in there as well, so that everyone knows what exactly is going on. And then there's something for minions taking unintentional pathing. And there are a few changes to Celestial Domination, which I think is really cool, that they're kind of looking even more into the balance for this mode specifically before re-releasing it as a fun mode for a while. It makes me happy that they're still like looking into balance while doing that. So the movement speed buff increase from the buff is up from 5% to 15%. The camps now are conquest style buffs, so you can quickly pick them up. There are pre-timers for the buff camps as well, and a few areas around the capture points are fixed to a collision extended beyond the environment art. Again, I'm just happy that they're even thinking of doing those things in the first place. I like that they put a little bit of, I don't know, I wouldn't say balance necessarily, but yeah, you know, there's a little bit of balance in there as well. And then last but not least, SK Gaming Merlin now has more SK logos added to the spell effects. That is something that I said when I watched it on the patch notes, that the skin, aside of the SK logo on the back, I think, didn't really look much like an SK skin compared to the other skins that always have big circle effects, show the logo of the team. So that's been adjusted, that's been fixed. That criticism has been heard, and we're going to have that in the game now. So a bunch of good changes in my opinion, and then one just out of nowhere strange change where I, once again, have no idea where it's coming from. That's it for this video. I will have more content later today. It might be multiple other videos today if I finish them all. So let's see how much I get done. But either way, with that, thank you guys very much for watching. If you're new to the channel, click the sub button and maybe the bell so you get notified of those other videos. Other than that, I hope to see you for the next one soon. ZiSotto, out.